Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today you're getting a twofer. Earlier today I did Masha's a tarot challenge, the top tarot trump challenge with the Pope, and now this evening, as promised, I'm going to do a few demonstration readings using the brand new Jacques Viéville tarot deck published by Sullivan Hismans over at Tarot Sheet Revival. So without any further ado, let me flip the camera and pose a few questions. One thing I wanted to point out that I failed to point out yesterday was when I saw the tab that the deck was surrounded, with the green tabs. I made a mental note of it, and then I didn't think to comment, but I think it was a clue, because throughout the deck, we see shots of this awesome green, and it's fairly consistent that we see. Of course, now that I'm showing it to you, we won't find any, but yeah, it's kind of consistent. Like there's shots of really beautiful green, throughout the deck. Yeah, I think I pointed that one out a little bit there. In the coins, just enough, to really accent the deck. See a little bit here. Her sleeve. Just a little tiny bit. It's not overbearing, but it's just enough, that you say, wow, look at that beautiful green. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so I thought today, I'll do a couple, maybe 2 or 3 demonstration readings using this deck, because after I showcase the deck, I like to do a couple demonstration readings with it. And remember, tomorrow I will do some side-by-side videos, or probably at least one, if I can showcase all 5 decks together. I'd like to showcase the other 4 decks that I have alongside the Viéville. It may be a very long video, so I'm not sure if I'll do it in one shot or if I'll do it in a few videos, but that's upcoming tomorrow. I don't have any baby duties tomorrow, so I'll have the whole day to do as many videos as I want. So for this first demonstration reading, I think I would like to ask a histories, mysteries kind of question. One that we just don't know the answer to, but maybe the universe will yield some insight. And I was thinking, for example, about Mallory and Irvine, the British expedition team that attempted to climb Everest in 1924. It was before, it became en vogue to attempt that mountain, and, before it was a tourist trap, So we never really knew what happened to them. Did they actually make it to the top? Or did they die on the way up? Or what happened? So I'd like to just see what the universe could yield for us and let us know. I think what is known, some people who were on the same expedition turned around and saw them, guesstimated where they were. But they weren't really sure if they made it to the top or not. I know that there was, it was stated that one of them had a photograph of his wife, and he promised, I think Irvine promised his wife that he would leave her photograph. I don't know if it was Irvine or Mallory. Promised that they would leave her photograph at the top of Everest if they made it to the top. And then, of course, by the time anyone else got up there, there was no photograph of the wife, but you wouldn't expect it to. It would have blown away. But there was no photograph found on the body of Irvine, who I think it might have been Irvine who told his wife he would leave it at the top of the mountain. So the fact that it wasn't on his body suggests that he put it someplace, because everything else about his body was intact. But at any rate, let's just see what the cards have to say. I may have gotten some of those facts wrong. So I'm just going to disregard the facts that I may have gotten wrong, And let us know. Give us some clues. Did Mallory and Irvine make it to the top of Mount Everest in 1934? Now 10 of swords. 10 represents the end, or the top, the pinnacle, or as high as one can get. Remember, we're interpreting cards regarding climbing Mount Everest. So if you interpret the cards in the context of the question, then the 10 might be significant. Also notice, however, that the swords are pointing down. They may have been on their way down. They may have surmounted it, and then they were on their way down. So we have 7 of cups, which is a pretty elated number, a card of transition. A number of transition, of emotional high. And then the same with the 6. So they were very emotionally satisfied. And there was some kind of transition here. And it looks like, that to reach the point of the highest point, and then perhaps they were on their way down. So yeah, I'm thinking that these cards are suggesting that they were emotionally satisfied and they conquered what they were trying to do, and they were on their way down when, calamity occurred. One of them, the one that was found, Irvine was found, it was surmised that he fell, and perhaps Mallory fell also. So let's see, for fun and games, let's see what the quint would be. We have 10. And 7 would be 17, and then 17 and 6 would be 23 minus 22. That would be 1. That would be the magician. So let me pull the batelier. So with this card representing a con or a trick or sleight of hand, it's really not very clear. That it doesn't really help us, does it? Although this card is supposed to be the quintessential to give us the gist of the whole reading. So, I'm not sure. I'm not perhaps skilled enough to understand what this is trying to say. Based on this, it seems as though they probably did. They were satisfied. They, emotionally were in a good place, and it looks like they did surmount it and were on the way down. But then this looks confusing. Well, I guess that just adds to the confusion, doesn't it? I mean, it's like forever a mystery. It's forever a confusion. So I guess we'll never know. And I guess there's no definitive way to ever know. And I'm not really sure what this card means other than that, just adding to the confusion. But based on this, it seems as though they did. I've read in articles, because I'm fascinated by anybody who would do something like that. More fascinated by the people who did it before the time it became Disneyland, where everybody who had money and is in decent condition could make the trip, right? So I've been fascinated by the people who did it in the early days. And, it just fascinates me that they would try to do something so outrageous, which to me, it seems like very outrageous. My husband and I, and this is nothing like, to be compared to it at all. But my husband and I have been to Mauna Kea, I think 3 times. And even at that height, which and we drove, so please don't think that we hiked it. We drove. We drove to the top. And then from the top, we observed the stars, And it was just the treat of a lifetime, and a privilege to have done it a few times. But you definitely notice that the air is thinner, and my husband was really definitely struggling to breathe. He was having troubles. We couldn't stay up for as long. I would have stayed up all night, but my husband just couldn't, because it was just too much for him. So there is such a, that thinning of the air that interferes with, a person's ability to remain at the top of a mountain like Everest. I can't even imagine. Okay, let's try to get another histories and mysteries question. Here's a question that I have. Paul Byrne. What became of Paul Byrne? Was his death a result of his own hand or his own doing? Or was someone else involved in his death? It's one of Hollywood's oldest mysteries. It's known, Paul Byrne was married to Jean Harlow. I think it was a mutually advantageous relationship. I think there might have genuinely been love there between them. He was considerably older than her, but I think she was older than her years. She was, of course, the first platinum blonde, or so they say. And he was a big shot producer right alongside with Irving Thalberg. And he had a common law wife from years before, but that woman, Dorothy Millett, had mental challenges, and so he had been taking care of her. He supported her. He did not neglect her. He had her in a facility, which was a very nice one. And then when she was released, he had her, I believe, in the Algonquin Hotel. He paid for her. I mean, he wasn't neglectful of her in any way. I'm guessing that Miss Harlow was aware of this woman, and and one particular night, this woman was supposed to have visited him, and Miss Harlow spent the night at her mother's, probably so he could, resolve any issues he had with Dorothy Millett. The only thing we all know is that the next morning he was found dead. And then a few days later, Miss Millett was also found dead, presumably by her own hand. She jumped off a tugboat near, I'm not sure if it was Sacramento or I think it was maybe Sacramento, but I could be wrong. So anyway, was Paul Byrne, did his life end as a result of his own doing, or was Miss Millett involved? Now, there could have been another explanation, but I think those are the two most reasonable. The other option is that maybe, Jean Harlow herself. So here we have, he was probably in his 40s, so he wasn't a young man. I would have thought him as a king. But here we have the King of Cups. Let's see what comes next. What's he going towards? We have the Queen of Cups, so there's a pair. Although she's in more control than him. And they're both not looking at one another. They're both looking in that direction. The Star card. Wow. And I can't even pull a quintessential card to help clarify, because the quintessential card would be the star. Oh, the star. The star. Wow. Dang, I wonder if this suggesting the star could have done it. No, I can't believe it. I couldn't believe that Miss Harlow would do that. So we have a young man who I don't think is Paul Byrne, because Paul Byrne was an older gentleman, and he was, although this might be an impetuous, aspect of him, or an impulsive part of him. And then we have the woman, and they're kind of like a pair, although she would be more mature. She would be more in control than he is. But it would have been the other way around if it were Miss Millett. Miss Millett would not have been the one in control or in charge. It would have been him. So maybe he is in putty in the hands of this one, and they're not looking at each other. Well, he's looking at her, so that's not true. He's looking at her, but she's not focused on him. So this, I don't know, to me this suggests that the woman who had the upper hand on him, that maybe he was putty in her hands, and then this card suggests it was the Star. But I just can't imagine. I can't imagine that being the case. I just can't imagine that. Okay, and let's try one more example of a demonstration reading using a history's mystery. Okay, and I thought of a third question, which is a mystery of my own life. And the background information is when I was 7 years old, I spent a summer. I used to spend a few summers with my grandparents in Long Branch, New Jersey. And this particular year, I was 7. I was 7 years old, and my grandparents used to go and play Skillo, which I think is like bingo. I think it was like bingo. And they used to go, and there was a big Skillo hall at the end of the pier, and they would play it, and I was just sort of left to just kind of play by myself. Now, yes, I agree. It's unheard of and unthinkable to have a 7-year-old alone by herself on the boardwalk, but that's how I spent the entire summer. Remember, this is the 60s, and I don't think people were as astute as they should have been. Maybe they didn't need to be as astute as parents need to be now, because it's unheard of now to let a child be alone on the boardwalk. But that's what they did. And I used to roam up and down the boardwalk. And this one particular night, I was sitting on the guardrail looking into the ocean. And what caught my eye was this thing that was hovering above and in the distance, not directly above me, but in the distance and above the ocean. And it stayed there for a really long time. And I was old enough to know what an airplane was or what a helicopter was, and I knew it wasn't one of those. And I just kind of was mesmerized. I mean, I just sat there looking at it. And then I guess one of my grandparents must have sent one of my older cousins to come out and check on me. His name was Anthony. He was maybe 3 years older than me. So Anthony came out of the Skillo hall to check up on me, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said, "Look over there. Look what's up there." And he immediately freaked out and decided it was a UFO. And he was like, "Oh my God, girl, that's a UFO!" He started screaming, and the next thing I know, the entire Skillo hall was outside looking and asking me questions about what I saw. But of course, it disappeared. As soon as he saw it and he ran in, it disappeared. Just like that, it disappeared. So I've never known all these years. What was it? Was it a UFO, or I didn't see it alone? My cousin Anthony saw it. So at any rate, that's my question. What was it? What was it? Let's see how well the cards can describe what that was. Okay, so that could be me looking into the sky. Knight of Swords with the thing pointing down. Queen of Cups. I have no idea. So I might have to get my clues from the Hermit, which would be the Quinta card, because these two are court cards, so they wouldn't have any numeric values. So I think the Hermit, I'm not sure if the Hermit is 9 in this deck. It might be 11. So 9 is fortitude in this deck. Now, it was summer. It could have been, and I'm thinking like the constellation Leo. It could have been in August. I'm just thinking about Leo being in the card, trying to get my clues from that. Or it could have been me, since I am a Leo. What was it that I saw? What are these cards suggesting? I have no idea. You know, in a way, the thing was shaped like this, to be honest. It was tapered at the ends. It was pink. It was definitely pink. I guess you could say it was sort of shaped like that in a general way. And it's pointing down. I think that's me looking up. Maybe it was looking down at me too. But then I have no idea who the woman is. No idea whatsoever. There was no woman there. There was absolutely no woman there. And I was just a child, so it couldn't have been me. So I don't know what it's trying to tell me. And then the quint card being a 9, which in this case is fortitude. And I'm, trying to read it in the context of the question. So it might have been in the, having to do with the constellation Leo, being that it was in the summer. It was probably around my birthday, because I usually spent my birthdays there. But I don't know. I'm completely flabbergasted. If somebody can give me some insight, maybe I just can't understand it because it's about my life. I usually can understand questions about my own life, but I'm having a hard time with that one. It's been a long day. It was like a 10.5-hour day today with my 5-month-old grandson, so I am exhausted. And maybe my brain isn't working so well, but I did want to show you the cards in action. Now remember, tomorrow I will be doing more readings. I will be doing more videos on the Viéville. One thing I wanted to mention when I was talking about climbing Mount Everest, I know that diehards who, let me flip the camera. I know that real diehards or like people who climb Mount Everest consider it a failure. Even if you get to the top and you get to the very top of it, if you fail to come down successfully, you're not considered to have done it successfully, which, okay, I get that. But heck, if you get to the top of Mount Everest, even if you don't make it down, I think you're successful, especially in 1924. So I just want to say that. And I know for myself, my husband and I went to some caves in Spain where they had, cave art, from going back several thousand years, very early. And we did climb. We drove the car to a certain point, and then as far as we could, which Neolithic man or whoever they were wouldn't have been able to drive a car. They would have climbed that mountain to where we parked, and then from that point where we hiked, it was strenuous. And I really felt like it might have killed me. I mean, I really felt like I'm not going to wake up tomorrow. That's kind of what I felt. And I said to my husband, if I don't wake up, it was worth it. So, the whole idea about if you see your dream, but you don't get to come down the mountain or whatever, it's a failure. I don't know. I would have died happy. I told him, I said, I might not wake up tomorrow because this was so hard on me. But I woke up, and now it's been about 7 years, so... It didn't get me. But I would say, screw it. If you want to have a dream and you want to see something and somebody tells you it's not successful unless you complete the whole thing, don't listen to them. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and do no harm.